Welcome back to Street Switch Photography. The Tommy Robinson case that was on today. Well, it's the first half of the case. Let's do this.
Street Switch Photography.
So today, Tommy Robinson was in court in London. I believe it was to do with when he was arrested under the Terrorism Act. Now, the reason he was arrested under the Terrorism Act, let's be honest, was because the government cannot silence him. They tried to get him on several occasions under different bullshit, if you want to put it like that. And they basically arrested him under the Terrorism Act. Now, the reason he's actually in court today was because when they arrested him under the Terrorism Act, you have no right to silence. You have to speak. And his phone actually had a PIN number on it. And he wouldn't give them the PIN number to his phone so that they could search all his documents, all his private information on this phone. Obviously, again, they'd arrested him under the Terrorism Act. Now, I've been doing a little bit of research on Tommy Robinson and what he actually stood for in the past and what he actually stands for now, because I hear a lot of people calling him racist, fascist, Nazi, that he was basically involved with a terror group in Great Britain and everything else. And what I've found is quite surprising. Now, I've got a video here to show you after, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say right now as a matter of actual fact. So, Tommy Robinson has never actually been caught on video at any time during his, let's just say, fame, actually being racist. He has never said anything racist about anybody, considering that Islam is actually a religion, not a race. So he actually isn't racist. People that call him racist are full of shit. Others also, people saying that he used to run the EDL. That's true. That part of it is actually correct. And the fact that the EDL was never registered as a terrorist organisation of any description is also true. So yes, he ran the EDL, but he also, which is true, disbanded the EDL back in 2008 because it was infiltrated by far-right activists. And he didn't want anything to do with that type of activism at all. So the way they try and spin Tommy Robinson is complete bullshit. Now, it's took some digging and it's took some, let's just say, a lot of reading up on exactly what it is he's supposed to have done. Yes, he's done prison time. Yes, he's got a history of being a football hooligan. He no longer is like that. He supports Luton. He's no more than basically somebody that went out fighting when he was a young lad with his mates. And people seem to think that this is some sort of far-right activist type thing, and it isn't. It's nothing to do with that. In fact, it was a regular occurrence back in the 80s and 90s. Now, to call him far right would probably be a little bit extreme. I'd call him centre right. Now, again, I've had to do a lot of research on this, but they are trying to pin this bloke down. They're trying to nail him down so he can't speak. He's got a lot of information on the government, and he's done his research, and he became a journalist. He spoke in universities across Great Britain. He spoke on different shows and stuff like that. And again, people just want him to shut up because what he speaks is the actual truth. Now, again, I've had to do a lot of research into this because I don't particularly follow him or agree with his views. But there's one thing I will do, and that's give somebody a little bit of credit where credit is due. And this guy deserves some bloody credit because what he's actually doing at the moment has all turned out to be actually correct. Listen to what happened to him when he came out of court, when they tried to get him sent back to jail. And the trial continues tomorrow, and this is what the mainstream media will try and pump out on Tommy Robinson. They won't tell you the truth about him. Have a look at this.
So Tommy, you're now coming out of the court. What has happened?
Only accredited journalists, when they say accredited, only government-supported journalists.
So in other words, only mainstream media were allowed in the courtroom whilst this was happening.
We're allowed to report on the second half of the trial, which means no one, I guess, out here, because you're not going to hear it from the mainstream media, because I've looked through the mainstream media's reporting on the case this morning. It's insane. It's fucking insane.
You're lying.
All the unlawful stuff they've done, all the illegal stuff they've done, and not one part of it has been reported on. It's mad. Which is the need for people like Ezra and other people who have flown over from Canada to come and report on this. Unfortunately, he's been gagged today.
So there's a gagging order on this as well. The people, you know, sort of, let's just say independent journalists are not allowed to talk about what went off in court today, but I'm pretty sure he says something in this video. Let's have a listen. Also, I'd just like to mention that mainstream media reported on a mosque that was burnt down recently in, where was it? I'm trying to remember where it was. Brighton. And it turns out it was a car outside that was actually damaged, and it turns out also that it was burnt down by the two Muslim guys that actually were in the mosque at the time, and they're trying to claim for it. They were trying an insurance job. Now that's still to be confirmed, but as I said before this building was burnt down, there was a fundraiser for £250,000 to get them out of debt. That all of a sudden didn't go as they wanted it to. So 2 weeks later, the mosque somebody tried to set fire to the mosque. Now there's another fundraiser for £250,000 to repair the mosque. Now if that isn't bleeding odd, tell me what is.
From when we went back in, no one else other than the government controlled, which what is that? That's communism, no? Only government controlled media are allowed to report on what's going on inside the courtroom. And it's meant to be about fair and open justice for people to understand. The reason why we need citizen journalists is because these fucking frauds don't report. We've seen that by the reporting this morning. We've seen that. But an officer has accepted this afternoon, which you wouldn't have heard, that he held me unlawfully because he was supposed to have done certain things that he didn't do. And then
listen to this.
There was 3 different things that he was lawfully had to do that he didn't do in order to detain me under Terrorism Act.
This men's belt by Zatali clicks in place on the backside and locks in. It's got a...
It's not like we're stopping you for a quick check in your car. We're nicking you for terrorism. We're using terrorism legislation to detain you and pump around the whole world that you're being charged under the Terrorism Act. You better make sure your shit's in order. And none of it's in order. The reason for detaining me wasn't in order. They just made up as they went along. What we then found out is they made up stuff today that's not in their statements. Do you know how many times we've asked them for disclosure and they've refused it? So we've gone back saying, what did you do for an hour and a half? Because they detained me, there was a 40-minute gap, then there's another hour and a half gap. What were you doing in that time? From stopping me originally, what was going on? We know what was going on. It was going up the ladder to the top, yeah? And they were making decisions. But they didn't make any notice, and even though we asked them, what were you doing? They refused to answer. And then today, we were taking information from other organisations. Well, we've asked you that multiple times. You have to give us disclosure.
So when they say other organisations, do they mean organisations like Hope Not Hate, the far left organisation which pumps out fake media all the time? And I mean all the time. Nick Lowles is the gentleman's name that runs that particular lovely online far left, website. They're a disgusting thing. I've done a video on them.
Which they haven't given. They didn't give. So now there's been another application to make the judge aware. We've asked all this information, then they've brought shit up today in court where there's no evidence of it, there's no paperwork trail, there's no email trail, there's nothing. And then he started making up, do you know what his reason was? Islamophobia.
Now, Islamophobia, there's an interesting word. Islamophobia, a word made up by the government. So you can't basically criticise Islam. They're trying to bring blasphemy laws in about criticising Islam. Because basically we are a communist government. This is what we've got in this country at the moment. What this Islamophobia is supposed to mean is you are not allowed to criticise Islam because it will be classed as a criminal offence. Well, guess what? We ain't stopping. Because they're allowed to criticise Christianity, they're allowed to criticise the Jews, they're allowed to criticise anything they fucking well want. So we're going to continue to criticise Islam.
Islamophobia? Islam? What even is Islamophobia?
Nobody knows because it's a made-up word by the far left.
They're taking it from the Labour government's Islamophobia bill. You talk about Islam, we're going to nick you under terrorism. That's it. Anyway.
I'm back tomorrow.
I'm back tomorrow for the verdict. Let's hope the judge gives us something to have a bit more faith in judges in the UK forward. Last time I was in this court, I got a positive result from a judge. I wish I was tried by a jury, but I think after the judge listening to that absolute facade of a shit show of legal corruption and bullshit from a police force which detained someone under Terrorism Act within 30 seconds of seeing who I was. And then they've tried to make up and wrote statements 6 months later, 9 months later. Why didn't you write this at the time? Why are you wrote all the officers trying to get their ducks in order? That's what they were trying to do a year later. Well, why did you detain him? And then they're making up all the reasons. So let's see what happens today.
So if this isn't thrown out court, they're trying to make Tommy Robinson another political prisoner. They're trying this all the time with him. He's been up court so many times, I've lost count. I think a lot of people have lost count. Now, the reason they want to silence him is because he tells the truth. Now, as much as people hate him and everything else, again, I'm not particularly fond of him, but I have watched a couple of his documentaries, one of them being Panodrama. I'll try and remember to leave a link in the description, about how mainstream media will lie, will be corrupt to try and make you look as bad as possible and run witch hunts, actually on behalf of other organisations to try and make you look as bad as possible. And this revealed everything that the mainstream media and the basically the government will do to try and silence people. Now, if anybody is in any sort of any confusion whether we are living under a communist government and we are losing free speech, this should be the warning to you. They have done it to this man more than once, more than twice, more than 10 times. This man has spent years in prison of his life, not seeing his children, his family or anybody, all for the sake of having free speech and sticking up for free speech in this country. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Don't be a sheep. Do your research. Yes, he's got a history, but hasn't everybody? Everybody has a history. Everybody has some sort of skeleton in their closet. And what mainstream media like to do is bring up those skeletons from that closet and try and make you look as bad as possible by continuously beating you over the head with it. Well, this time it doesn't work because people have noticed and people have woken up.
Trial was finished today, Tommy.
Yeah, turn the camera around for a second. You're a member of the press. You was in there today. Sorry, Wendell. You're a member of the press.
So he's just going after one of the journalists, the mainstream media journalists, which is basically the ones that were allowed in the court. The rest have been gagged.
No, it's not. No, it's not. There's no jury. That's only for juries. There's not contempt. That's a lie. That's a lie. No, you're a member of the press. Well, I've looked at your reporting today. I've looked at your reporting. I've looked at your reporting. I've looked at your reporting today. Why don't you get off?
It's running off. It's running off. Mainstream media running away from Tommy Robinson because they can't answer the questions. What the mainstream media do nowadays is not journalism. They do not search for the truth. They basically work for the government to push out a narrative like they do in Korea, like they do in China, like they do in Russia, to make you believe it. And if you believe it, I'm sorry, fucking all for you. You are nothing but a flaming weak-minded idiot, and that is the truth. And if you don't like that, get off my channel. It's as simple and as plain as that. We've got a couple of comments. We've got Tommy Robinson. We've got Kim Thomas. I've watched him since 2010. They keep making him a political prisoner. Correct. They do keep making him a political prisoner. And again, they keep bringing up his past and trying to beat him over the head with it. Like people can't change. If we were to bring up any MPs or police's pasts, there'd be plenty there you would be able to beat them over the head with. But then you would have a gagging order on you instantly, within seconds. That's what Keir Starmer is. He is a communist Stasi bastard. And if people can't understand that yet, he's coming for your children. He is coming for your children. I believe that he is a Jimmy Savile loving idiot. That's who this guy is, who's in charge of Great Britain. Why Prince Charles hasn't dissolved Parliament yet, I do not know. Now, Tommy Robinson is a very controversial figure. I can understand why Nigel Farage wouldn't want anything to do with him, and all power to Nigel Farage for actually reading the political plane correctly. Because if he had anything to do with Tommy Robinson, there's going to be people that will turn around and say, well, I'm not voting Reform then. As simple as that. And in the Houses of Parliament, if anybody has anything to do with Tommy Robinson at the minute, it isn't a good look for them in the Houses of Parliament because of what Keir Starmer and previous governments have actually done to this man and held him a political prisoner. Yes, he has a past. Again, we all have a past. The only difference is Tommy's is already now out there. And they're losing things to actually beat him over the head with. So what they have to do is try and make things up like this. The reason he was in court today was because he would not give the police the PIN number to his phone because it had content on there to do with the Pakistani rape gangs and everything else in Great Britain. It had witnesses and people that had actually gave him information which he promised not to give out. Not just witnesses, Not just witnesses, but there were also people that had actually been affected by these gangs. And it's so important to understand. And I didn't really want to sort of do this video this afternoon, but I thought it's very important that people see it for exactly what it is. Let's continue the video.
So they're running away
the mainstream
from you.
media, yeah? He is sat in that court case. We'll see what verdict we get tomorrow. Not one of them has reported any of the unlawful.
Now, none of the mainstream media have actually reported exactly what it is that's happened to Tommy in court, and there's gagging orders on the rest of them. He's back in court tomorrow. I will do a live on it tomorrow. We will find out the verdict tomorrow of exactly. He could go back to prison, and he will be a political prisoner again, which is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's wrong. And again, I know he's got a past and everything else, but they're putting people in frigging prison, yeah, for Facebook posts, and they're being allowed to get away with it. There's one gentleman that killed himself in prison because he couldn't handle it because of a social media post, and everybody seems to have forgot that, and the blood is on Keir Starmer's hands. That needs bringing up to Keir Starmer as soon as possible. And why did the bloke in Epping who actually committed a sexual offence against a child get less time in prison than one of these people that have written a Facebook post? That tells you everything you should need to know to make an informed decision on whether the mainstream media are telling you the truth or not. Because I can tell you now they're not.
And then they went and told all the other reporters.
And then, you know what? He went to the judge. He went to the judge to make sure Ezra was stopped reporting. He did. He was the grass. He went as a member of the press to point out that he's sitting in the public gallery and he's reporting on this case to prevent him reporting, so that the only narrative you get is from them. Fast
From
car, cash in his car.
media.
Why do I have cash in the car? Because we collected it at a demonstration the day before, and I can't bank in the UK, you monks. Anyway, they mentioned about.
So this is Rebel Media. Now this video does actually tie into what it was I was saying
traders,
a couple of days ago about people stopping in town and putting targets on people's backs because they're handing out leaflets calling them Nazi, calling them far left, or far right, and other disgusting names. And see, these lefties don't seem to understand it. Somebody commented on one of the actual videos that I put out yesterday, did somebody say some hurty words? Not just hurty words. Some words that people have actually been murdered because of. You moron. Call it tagging people certain things is wrong. And if anybody should do that and they're going to put blasphemy laws to not allow to criticise Islam and everything else, then we should have laws in from people calling us far right and everything else, I think.
Welcome back to the TradingView channel. In this video, we're introducing our new AI indicator.
Oh, it's an advert.
Oh, hi everybody, Ezra Levant. As you can see, court is done. We're at the Westminster Magistrates Court in London. I don't know how many hours I've been up. I flew over from Toronto, really got maybe 2 hours sleep on the plane, came straight here from the airport because traffic's so crazy. Haven't gone to the hotel yet, but had a very interesting day in court, listening to the police try and excuse why they nicked or arrested Tommy under the Terrorism Act, given that he's not a terrorist.
Now, again, under the Terrorism Act, you don't have, under normal circumstances, if you're arrested, you have the right to remain silent. Not under the Terrorism Act. You do not have the right to remain silent. I don't know how they actually go about making you talk, but they tried to get Tommy Robinson's PIN number to his phone, which had extremely important information on there. There was nothing on there to do with terrorism. Tommy Robinson is not a far-right terrorist.
And to watch 4 different police officers try and scramble to answer.
Now, people will try and bring up the BNP, people will try and bring up the EDL, people will try and bring up UKIP and all the rest of it. And like I said before, there's plenty of digging people can do online for any MP or any councillor online that you think has done something wrong in the past. And you can put that information out there to try and use as a witch hunt or as a stick to beat that person over the head. And this has got to stop. As I said before, I've seen this now for the past 2 years. This will happen again. This election coming up, with the May elections coming up, and it's already beginning to happen. And it's beginning to get very, very, let's just say, monotonous, and I can't be bothered with it. And I'm going to call it out at every single opportunity I actually get, because number one, it's wrong, and number two, it makes for bloody good content.
That question, one of them saying, well, 10 years ago he was with the English Defence League, but yes, I know that is now defunct for 10 years. Well, then why? What? And by the way, the English Defence League was never a terrorist group, never regarded as an extremist group.
So he's just made an extremely good point there. EDL was never actually sort of called a terrorist group. It was never prescribed a terrorist group, whereas Palestine Action was. And then Keir Starmer goes and basically says, we recognise the state of Palestine, basically rewarding terrorism. So tell me what's going on there, please.
So there's so many weird after the fact excuses that these cops have cooked up. And what's extra weird is that they took weeks or even months to do it. So they had their first witness statement, and they didn't in that put sufficient facts forward to justify arresting and holding Tommy under the Terrorism Act. So they continuously sort of patched up. They changed their original story months later. It was really bizarre police work, bizarre until you remember that a central mission of the court system in the UK now is simply to get Tommy Robinson. Now, I enjoyed court because I feel like I'm in my milieu. I used to be a lawyer, so I understand some things. I'm friends with Tommy, so I know his side of the story. I'm a good typist, so I can type things fast. And my tweets cumulatively had almost 7 million views until the judge ordered me to stop live tweeting, and I was confused by that. But someone next to me in the gallery said that a BBC reporter had complained to the court that I was tweeting from the court.
So that's the BBC, the far left, paedophile harbouring BBC, that were allowed in court and allowed to basically spin it how they see fit because they work for the government. And that's how it works, people. That is exactly how it works. And this is what Tommy Robinson has been saying for years. Now 100% proven. So if you still follow the BBC or the ITV and actually believe a single word they say, more fool you.
As were so many other people, but only I was the subject of the BBC's complaint. That's the third time the BBC has interfered with my journalism. Dominique Casciani, a BBC journalist, actually reported me to the police once for my tweeting. I'm not even kidding. That's a true story. And then on another occasion, he interrupted a trial to complain about my tweets. Both of those were laughed in his face. But this third one here today.
So I'm going to call this the end of the video, folks, because I think that's about it. Tommy has basically got to go back into court tomorrow on this case to do with the PIN number on his mobile phone after being arrested with the Terrorism Act, because that's the only thing they could arrest him on, to try and get out information about him. Now, I will be doing a live on it tomorrow. I think it's important that people see the way the mainstream media actually work and the way they actually spin it for the government to try and make them look good. It's so important that people know this, and it's so important that people actually understand it and make an informed decision on what they actually put online and what they actually say about Tommy Robinson and about other activists out there that are actually trying to protect and help your children and help your women and families and everything else stay safe within Great Britain. This has been Street Switch Photography. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Go and hit the notification bell, and I'll hopefully see you tomorrow in the next live video. Goodbye for now.
Street Switch Photography.